Good afternoon. I am Brother Kelly Hughes, Chaplain of the Arts, broadcasting live to tape from the Valiant Theatre here in the heart of Winnipeg's greasy Tenderloin District. This is Kelly Hughes Live Slices, one guest, 1 hour, and this is coming out to you on UMFM 101.5 FM and also the YouTube. Thank you so much for stopping by. Doing something a little bit different today, and I'm excited about it. Still one guest and 1 hour, but a recent guest of mine, the great venerable Winnipeg broadcaster Laurie Mustard, is going to sit here on the in the driver's seat, and then over here, as his guest, is going to be Chris von Schindler. Who has fairly recently been installed as the executive director of the Winnipeg Humane Society, and they are doing great things. And both Chris and Laurie are super passionate about animal welfare, and I thought it would be so great for them to have a conversation about it. And I was excited, and I think it turned out really well. So I'm excited for you to hear that too. Excited too to have somebody do, to have a guest host, because this is really what I want to do is a community thing. It's always going to be about me, sort of, because I'm Brother Kelly Hughes, Chaplain of the Arts, but it's about everybody and everything and all the, all the good people trying to take their little corner of the world and make it better. So excited to have some other guest hosts in the future, I am sure. But until then, please stay tuned for Laurie Mustard with Chris von Schindler. Thank you.
Well, Christina von Schindler, welcome.
Thank you.
Shake hands. I'm Laurie Mustard. I'm delighted today to have been invited by Kelly Hughes to sit in and do this interview with you, because we're both animal people. You're here, CEO of the Winnipeg Humane Society, and I'm here as absolutely insane animal lover who would have elephants living in my house if I could.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. So we're there, and so thank you, Kelly, and hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm delighted too. Thank you for having me.
Well, this will be fun. We'll cover everything that you'd like the folks to know about the Humane Society and you, and I'll talk about my passions, some funny stories about some of the animals that I've played with and lived with, and oh my gosh, they're magnificent. But so, when did you zip over to the Winnipeg Humane Society? Do you want to mention where you came from? Do you want to do a quick review of that and how you got into this role?
My life as I see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I made quite an unexpected pivot in my career. It wasn't something I was planning. My entire life has been shaped by a devotion to animals and animal welfare. My personal life, my every spare minute, my every spare dollar. But my professional life really didn't, because back in the day when I was planning my career, it really wasn't an option. My career was instead in privacy. I was the Chief Privacy Officer for the health system in Manitoba at Shared Health and WRHA.
What does that mean, privacy officer?
Chief Privacy Officer. So I was accountable for ensuring that the entire health system is compliant with applicable privacy legislation. So,
okay.
In Manitoba, that's,
sure.
We could talk about that.
Oh yeah, no, that's good. I just didn't, I read that and then I went, I need a clarification.
Yeah. So, in charge of maneuvering a very large system, essentially. And then in my spare time, I remained very engaged with animals, including as a member of the board of directors of the Winnipeg Humane Society. I volunteered my time there. When we started recruiting for a new CEO, I led the committee because at this point I'd had experience in recruiting significant talent. And at some point in the process, as I was describing what we were looking for and we were going to have to provide, my colleagues looked at me and said, I don't know, to us it seems like you're describing somebody we know. Would you please consider this? So it was unexpected, and of course I had to compete and everything else. But
Sure.
initially I spoke to my husband about how touched I was that my colleagues thought so well of me. But I'm the top of my pyramid in my career, and I get to retire at a magic 80, and it's a pity that I can't. But the heart wants what it wants, and
Yes.
it was within a few days or weeks, it was undeniable that this was an opportunity that had to happen.
So when that opportunity became a reality, did that trigger in your head, okay, now those things I've been dreaming about, if only at the Humane Society we could, if only, did you go, now I have a chance to make those a reality? And if you did, what were they?
That's a great question, and the Humane Society does great work. The challenges we faced wasn't the absence of me. The challenges we face is the ones that all charities do, which is there is a need in the community that's not funded. So, of course, there's passion and creativity and ideas where we need to go. But those don't happen without adequate funding. So
Right.
that's our first plug for donations, everyone. And that's some of the things we're trying to work on, and really shifting the paradigm that human need and human suffering is a societal responsibility, but animal need and animal suffering is a special interest and an afterthought. If we're looking at community health, they're undiscernible. A community is only as healthy as its most vulnerable members. So really, I think we're on the cusp of some paradigm shifts that way, but moving that forward and recognizing that when we're talking about community health, we're talking about all members, and that really has to be sustainably funded.
I think worldwide people are becoming more aware of the sentient part of animal existence. And so when you can connect emotionally with animals and see who they are, and what they are, and not see them as just dogs. Right. Dogs are pets, cats are pets, animals are food, the other and you start to see that all animals have the ability to love, they have fear, they have humor, they love to play.
Complex emotional lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think people, once they start really to hook into that more about animals, dogs and cats, and the emotions they have, and so they're really family members. They're not a thing you bring in to entertain you in your home, and that that it's an option to get rid of them if you don't like them. Or you start to understand, wow, that Freddie of mine's got a real personality and really connects with me emotionally. And the more I love that wonderful dog or cat, the more they go, wow, she really loves me. And they love you back. And boy, do they love you back.
Animals live for their own, they value their own lives. And that's something we as a society, we're slowly moving towards is, of course, connecting with our companion animals first, but understanding that sentience you talk about, that not only are they aware of their own lives, they value their own lives, and they exist for their own purposes, and they have emotional lives. They do love us. Sentience is, I think you're right. I think most people understand it, at least on an intuitive level. Legally, we have a long way to go towards recognizing it.
Yes. One thing I don't understand, it wasn't really something I was going to bring up today, but we kind of weaved into it, but that a wild animal, if it gets injured, like if you pick up a goose on the highway, they got whatever, or any wild animal, you can't take it to a vet to be helped. You can take it to be euthanized, but you can't take it to be worked on, to be helped. You can take it to the rehab, the rescue, and they'll do, if it's depending, they'll either euthanize it themselves or they'll rehab it and let it go when it's healthy enough to go. But I've taken animals that I picked up, because I always rescue anything I can that's hurt, and get them in my car, and I took a what was it to a it was what animal was it? I can't remember. I took it to a vet on the way back in from Killarney. I stopped in a town because I'd found it on the highway, and he said, I can euthanize it. That's all I can do. I can't look at it to help it at all. It's illegal. I can't do it.
That might be a question for the MVMA. I know the Wildlife Center does great work. They do rehab. I couldn't speak about the legalities of why. Maybe it's areas of service.
I don't know why either, but you know what it brings me to? Looking at the farm, the industrial sort of factory farm thing, and animals generally that people eat. They'll say to you, they've got 2 dogs and 2 cats and all, and they'll say, I love animals, and then they stick the fork into the other piece of bacon.
There's a different way of loving them, I guess.
You know what I call it? I call it selective empathy. It's like it changes, you know, and what I don't understand is now that we have evidence-based scientific proof of what animals are all about, all of them, that people won't go, okay, I mean, there's something I have to learn then. If that evidence is there, I should study it and see if I'm doing something that's immoral or unkind and all that. They won't look at it.
Yeah.
And they'll say, I don't want to know. I love my bacon. Anyway.
I mean, it's an interesting distinction, isn't it? And you're right. I've long marveled at the capacity to decide that you don't want to know something and stick to it. That's not something I have.
Yeah, no, me neither.
I've never had the capacity to decide that there was something that I didn't want to know. I've always been compelled to know it. And for me, my animal welfare passions began as early as I can remember.
Me too.
It's always been there. So I understand that the capacity to shut that off exists. I just don't necessarily understand how it exists.
I don't either. I don't know. I just don't understand why that compassion that is in there for all those other animals in your life, why it doesn't just move on a little bit further and go to where it could go and where it deserves to go for those animals. But anyway, tell me more about the Humane Society. We've paid tribute to what's a huge passion to both of us, but there's lots of time for people to learn that and us to,
Absolutely.
advocate for it.
And just before we step away, let's end that on a positive note.
Okay.
Awareness is growing.
Oh, it is.
Whenever we're talking about change to the good, it never comes fast enough.
No.
But there is movement. In my life alone, I've been vegetarian since I was 12 years old, vegan since I was 19 years old. It was 10 years before I met another vegan in the flesh and we didn't have an internet. To now, in 2025, a thriving community. I went to the herbivore market a few months back. It was lined up around the block.
Yeah.
Awareness is growing. Compassion for animals is growing. Our capacity to communicate with each other is growing. There is reason to be hopeful. So with that.
That's a great place to leave it for the time being. So at the Humane Society, what advances are being made currently that you're happy about?
I am. The Humane Society is a wonderful organization. That's why I wanted to devote my time as a volunteer, and why I'm so incredibly honored for the opportunity to steer this compassionate ship. So, the Humane Society embraces a capacity for care approach to animal care, which really means we are first and foremost a social service. Every decision, every activity we make is from the lens of what's in the best interest of that animal. So social service in the way that we embrace a support for family unity model. meaning that if an animal is being surrendered to us because a loving, good family can't afford vet care, can't afford
That's what I write down. Okay.
can't afford to feed that animal, or is having some problem issues that they're not able to address, we really work with the family to ensure togetherness. So even as for example, our public food bank in the last year has grown, doubled in need. We provide pet food bank for families in need. Last year alone, we had 300 appointments for a pet food bank. So that's that's part of the capacity for care model. That's a way of supporting what's in the best interest of that animal, which is staying with their loving humans.
Well, I have a plea to make right now before I forget. And it is this. I've had this idea in my head for years, wondered how to make it work, and I still don't know how to make it work. And that is that there should be, I find it very frustrating that people with money can afford to keep their animal. They can go to the vet, they can pay the bill, they don't have to euthanize their animal. But people without those funds, they have no choice. They don't have the money, they can't get the money, and they have to give up their animal, have to say, I'm sorry, no, you'll just have to euthanize it then. So I would love to form a foundation, not me personally, but have it formed where people say that are, in their wills, that are millionaires and trillionaires and even, just people with money that they'd like to go to something that is extraordinarily compassionate and wonderful, is create a foundation where people can apply for the money to pay for the vet service they need, so that the vet clinic can say, okay, we can apply to so-and-so, and if they okay it, you'd have to have a board, you'd have to do, it'd take a tremendous amount of organization and detail, because there'd be so many people applying and there'd be so many people trying to cheat the system. But if you could get this huge amount of money set up so that people could apply, and it's not like a health insurance thing, it puts them on a level playing field, so they don't have to kill a family member because they don't have the funds to give it the medical attention it needs. So I want all the rich people in the world right now, I want you to go I want you to phone me or get in touch with me or get in touch with Christina and say, you know what, I'd love to be part of that. How can we organize this? How can we set it up? How can we make it? We could make Winnipeg the first place in the world that actually does this, and then other cities would have to create their own.
I have a way for you,
Do
Laurie,
you?
because we share a dream. At the Humane Society, we have a dedicated fund. We call it the Archie Almdell Fund. It's named after the cat of a beloved board member who was a rescue. And the fund that you can donate to, please do consider, is specifically to helping families for making sure that capacity to pay is never the life or death decision for an animal. So at the Humane Society, we help. It's the social service. As we as a society are on our way to recognizing that all sentient life is valuable, in the interim, that capacity to pay is never the deciding factor.
What scale is it on? Is it available to a lot of people?
Goodness, we are a charity.
Yeah.
So the fund is $100,000 per year, up to $150,000, as based on donations. We would love to see that grow.
Oh, that's just something that's been in me forever to have that happen. It's happening obviously at a certain level.
It's one of
but
the
I'd
reasons,
like to really grow it.
Agreed. In fact, before I became involved with the Humane Society, because it's interesting to me how much we share a dream. I had a vision of a foundation that paid vet bills for rescued animals of low income adopters. And I think it's further along the lines of what we talked about, of that paradigm shift of seeing family unity, companion companionship of animals.
So
As a
how would
fundamental
people
right.
say there are people out there? There's every kind of situation out there, but there are people who love to have pets who can't. People who love to support them. How do they? And they go, this is a way I can be involved and I can be helpful and I can feel like I'm part of the world I can't physically be in with a pet here, but I can help. What's the name of the fund at the Humane Society or through the Humane Society? How do they apply if they wanted to go and change their will and leave $100,000 to this part of what you've got? How would they do that?
Absolutely. Give us a call. Go on our website. Follow us on socials. There's a donation page. You could target your donations. Come talk to us. Come talk to our donor relations team. If you want to contribute and you want to recognize that in your will, we are so grateful for that. That is how we survive. That is how we meet a need in community that is not funded. If you can't give money but you want to contribute, we can't exist without our volunteers.
Sure.
If you want to volunteer, come see us. If you can't adopt an animal but you can foster, that's how we save lives. There's so many ways of getting involved.
Yeah, the Humane Society is it's just a phenomenal part of our community, and animals are just I call them family.
Yes.
Yeah, they're part of my family, and so I say, well, I've got 4 family members. They're part of my overall family, but that helps delineate just exactly who and what they are.
You know, we just had the Bow Wow, or the Bow Wow Ball, which is our annual gala fundraising. And in my address at the Bow Wow Ball, it's, touched upon that, which is, this organization's been around for 131 years now. So 131 years ago, it began on a radical idea that animals matter, that their suffering isn't inevitable, and that compassion can change lives. And we're still there. We're still working towards actioning those ideals.
2 cats I have right now they're tuxedo cats. And tuxedo cats, if you don't know specifically what they are, they're the kind that they're black and white, but not like a Sylvester the Tomcat from the cartoon. They have the way their white fur looks more like a tuxedo with the white paws and some white on their face and kind of a white stripe down the middle. So it does look kind of like a tuxedo. Their fur is different than other cats. It's a little finer, but they are extraordinary cats. Now, the one tuxedo cat I got, I was out at the vet's office at St. Francis, and I was going in for some reason, I can't remember what, and this cat was in a cage down at the bottom, cage that's against the wall, and it was a big cat, and it went back to the back wall and jumped against the cage. Went back and jumped against the cage over and over when I was standing there, just me.
He was choosing you.
He was choosing me. And so I said, what's the story on this guy? Well, he'd been feral, he'd been injured, not feral in the sense of 2 or 3 years, but a young cat and just had been homeless. And so they brought him in, and it had been, they thought maybe under the hood and a fan had nicked the eye or something. So, but they fixed him up, took care of him. And so I adopted him because he told me, we're going home. We are going home. No, you're not leaving this building without me. And so his name was John Doe because he was John Doe. They didn't have a name for him. So I said, of course I'm taking you home. And we're family now. And when I got home, I went, John Doe is not your name. But since you're used to sort of it, we'll make it a little more cosmopolitan. And I will now name you and change the spelling to Jean Doe. He is French. And it's Jeandeau. Jean Doe. So Jean Doe is with me. He's a wonderful, wonderful cat. Then...
May they all be so lucky.
Then at the beginning of a summer, maybe 11 years ago, in spring, there was a cat fight across the street. So I went across the street at night, And I don't know even whether it was one of my cats that was fighting with this homeless cat that was in the neighborhood that I hadn't seen before. But I couldn't see the two cats fighting. And I happened to look up, and there was what appeared to be a young tuxedo cat up in the tree that was really looking at me, like really looking. And my cat, I think it was my cat, but I'm not sure. But I said, no, we're not fighting here. No, we're not. You scoot. If it's, go home or whatever. So that cat, and then I didn't see that cat all summer long. And then, and my cats were doing their normal thing, no more fights. Then I was up in Minnedosa. My wife's uncle had passed away, and I was helping with the estate and emptying the home. And I just happened to be on the phone and on the way home. And my ex now, she said, "You're not going to believe it, Laura, but it was fall, late fall." She said I heard a meowing, loud meowing. She said, so the man door between the house and the garage, that's where it seemed to be coming from. I opened the door, and this tuxedo cat, young, thinner than our other tuxedo cat, the Jean Doe, just came in the house and said, "I'm home." He wasn't hunted. We didn't check him out. We didn't adopt. He just showed up. It was that cat. And he just knew that I had been the rescue. He'd watched and been around all summer and went, "That's my home. And when the time comes, I'll just go in." He came in, and with the dogs and Jean Doe, the other cat, he was just immediately at home and in love with everybody, and everybody just knew it. And everybody just accepted him, and he's still home.
Isn't that wonderful?
And just this last spring, he lost an eye. I don't know how. It must have been a fight, or like it might have been a wire or something like that poked him, but it just got infected to a certain extent before we found out, and we couldn't save it. But it doesn't seem to have affected him at all. And I did read, and I found it very interesting, that when a cat loses an eye, they really only lose 20% of their vision. So they're still able to see 80% of what they saw before. So that's pretty cool.
Lucky, smart little cat to have been somewhere where he could get the vet care.
Yeah. But he's spectacular. He's wonderful.
Aren't they all?
They are. But people say, "I've got a cat." He won't come near me. He doesn't, pays no attention to him. You know why? Because you're not loving him. You have to love a cat. And you do with a dog too, of course, but they're a little more open and a little more forgiving. But cats, when you show them love, really love them, boy, do they give it back. Just the same as a dog. They're a little different in the way they do it, but they are so caring. So
Never, I frequently say I've never met an animal I didn't like or want to get to know better.
I have another a philosophy thing I wanted to mention here that I want you to be doing the talking, but this just, when you have to, because of a dog's illness or a cat's illness or whatever, and they have to be put to sleep, and some people go, "I can't get another dog for," sometimes it's a year or 2 years. "I can't stand the pain of, I'm still suffering from that pain." I used to feel that way. And then I went, okay, that's not fair to the animals. I have to put myself second. And so what I did was I thought, my family member that just passed away, that's had a pretty full life generally, they've lived to the maximum number of years that they can. They've lived a full life. And they would love it, have no regrets, no resentment at all, if you rescued another animal as they were rescued to bring into your home. I just say to them now, guess what? We got another family member in our group. So everybody up there, since I was 2 years old, welcome, Jean Doe, or Ringo is the name of the cat that the second. And I give it a week of mourning, and I cry my face off. I can't stop. I just ache. And then after a week, it starts to become distanced a little bit. And then as soon as I can do it within 3 weeks or so, I adopt another.
Yeah.
And the reason I do is because my animal that just left would love it and appreciate it and welcome that animal. The other thing is there's only so many of us on this planet who love animals and take care of them. And if we don't do it, nobody does it. So those animals that are at the Humane Society and other places, they need heroes. They need people to come and say, okay, you know what? I've got a home for you. I've got room. And the other thing I find that does is that it brings that love back. It kind of transfers the love from the animal you've just lost. It's kind of like it says, good for you. And I don't know if the emotion is coming through, but that animal comes in and it fills your heart up again, because it's as though you're still able to love the one you lost and put a lot of that love into this animal. And in no time at all, the transfer is made and you're both better off because of it. So,
one of the best ways I've heard grief described is it's that pain of love with nowhere to go.
yes.
And I understand grief of losing a pet. The hardest day of my life was when I had to put my dog down 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But I can tell you from my own experience that great big doggy-shaped hole in your heart feels better when there's another one in it.
Yes.
It's not, Amica, my girl, is not replaceable.
No, you're not replacing them.
But you're absolutely right. There is no better way to honor her memory and all of the love and the years and the memories we had than to rescue another dog or another being. And one thing that's really important to consider is when you rescue a dog, you're actually saving 2 lives, or 3 if you count your own.
Mm-hmm.
You're saving the life of the companion you're choosing. You're also freeing up a space in the shelter for a new one to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And our shelters in the city are all at capacity. So every time you make a decision that there's a room at the inn, it's time to bring in a companion, you're not only saving that one, but you're allowing another one to come in.
And you feel like I put myself second and I'm fulfilling what I'm here for. The pain is there. It's going to be there for a while, but it's amazing how much that doing that really helps that pain to heal.
Yes.
It is. So,
well, grief is the price we pay for love, they say.
yeah.
And I still think it's a price worth paying.
Yeah. So now we're going into winter.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the Humane Society's, what adjustments, this is stream of consciousness babble, but it just came to my head. What do you encourage people to do? Because there are going to be a lot of homeless animals now that are going to be out there that will have trouble making that, the transfer to growing that. It's got to have the right, it's got to have the right coat. It's got to have a place for shelter. Like people will sometimes put a cat that in the middle of the winter, if they don't realize that you can't just put a cat out or a dog out and let it go or go to some other place where it's going to be outside. They aren't conditioned to stand that cold, and they'll freeze to death. So, what do you recommend people do to prep for those animals?
There's a lot there. I would say check our websites regularly for advice, because animals are genius in a way that we don't always appreciate. So one of the challenges we face at the Humane Society is as the weather gets cold, you're right, good people get more concerned. And they bring us in our intake of bottle babies, as we call them, newborn kittens, goes through the roof, which isn't always necessarily in that kitten's best interest to be separated from their mom so young. So be aware, check our website, make sure that before you pick up that animal that they really aren't being cared for. Oftentimes mom is just gone to source food.
Right.
So that's an important consideration. But in terms of winter, yes, our Manitoba winters are harsh. Dogs certainly are not able to live outdoors in very harsh conditions. Be a good neighbor. Be aware that peaceful coexistence sometimes means being on the lookout to see if animals are suffering. If you need help, or if you need help with trapping and bringing in, and being certain that that's the right thing to do for that animals. Cat colonies exist, are their families. They exist very well together. So sometimes trapping isn't always in their best interest. Call us, seek advice. We're there to help.
I'll tell you an interesting thing that a town did a number of years ago. They decided to get rid of all the stray cats. And the vet that lived there, that was an extended family with me, they called him in and talked to him and said, that's what we want to do. He said, don't do that. He said, because the history of that is that when you get rid of all the stray cats in your neighborhood and all the homeless cats, that the mice and rats and all that stuff, they grow like crazy and they kind of take over your town. And so they went, no. So they did it. They went ahead and did it. Yeah. And before long, they came back to him and said, we got to get rid of the mice and the rats and He said, I told you. He said, get them, neutered or spayed, and take care of them in winter as much as possible. Whatever manner we can. But in summer, allow the town to have that, but get them treated if you can, because you need that balance. So.
I would love to live in a world in which every animal had a home. The fact is the need for animals surpasses capacity. So we do the best we can. At the Humane Society, we firmly believe that every adoptable animal should have a home. Not all animals are particularly cats that have lived outside all of their lives. We have barn buddy programs. We have spay and neuter programs specifically to make sure that, to the best of our ability, every animal is cared for. It's a difficult situation. I mean, we have a stray cat problem in the city of Winnipeg. It's not an easy life for the animals.
Oh, no.
But we're here talking because I think we believe that every animal deserves care.
Yes, yeah, and there's, even the homes they make for cats to live in outside in the winter. That, I've got a shed at the back of my yard that I asked people to donate fur coats for the, and they did, and then I built a few things so that the cats can go in there. So they have a place they can go all winter, anyone that comes into the neighborhood. I ended up with a raccoon living in there one year. It was so funny. I opened the door and there was a giant raccoon standing on a shelf at the back of my wild animal shed. It's a wild animal. And I said, hi. And he went, what are you doing? This is private. I said, you know what? We're good. I said, now that I know you're here, it's fine. And I talked to it, and I never went back and bothered it again. It didn't bother me. And, but it was so adorable. I love raccoons.
Well, my dream life is off. I think Emily Carr had the right idea. A caravan in the woods with all her animal friends.
Yes. Yeah. Like
just before we leave the care for animals in the winter, the best way to help stray populations is to prevent new ones.
Yes.
Support spay neuter programs, support rescue programs. Whether it's for the adoptables or the less adoptable, spay, neuter, trap, and release prevents the next generation, and it is so important.
Yeah. Spay, neuter, trap, and release. That's really important.
Absolutely.
I want everybody
Absolutely.
driving around today going, spay, neuter, trap and release, spay, neuter,
Call
trap
the
and
Humane Society.
Yeah,
I want to support your spay, neuter, trap, and release
see what
program.
did you just,
And you'll notice that my Call the Humane Society still has the old handset because I am that old.
oh, well, you as a kid used to watch me. So how do but I still feel the same age I was then.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a foggy throat because of a health thing I went through but it's healing. It's healing. It's healing. I'll tell you a fun story about rescuing animals. We were out at Killarney, my hometown, and Dad and I were out for a drive I guess it was a Saturday, and we drove in the ditch on the other side of the highway. I saw a blue heron standing there, and it was fall, but things hadn't been harvested yet, and there was a field of canola. They used to call it rape, but I think it's canola. I don't want to be wrong about what I've switched to. Anyway, so there's this blue heron, and I thought, I wonder if it's injured or if it was full grown, just standing there. So I turned around and I came back, and I walked over to near it, and it just stood there. And I said, Dad, we've got to rescue this guy. I said, so how about you drive to town, get the vet, and come back out and we'll get it and put it in the car and take it back to the vet, or get it back to the Killarney and at least rescue it. And he said, okay. So we got in the car behind the wheel and drove about 6 miles to Killarney. And I turned around to look at the heron and decide what to do. There was no heron. And I went, this is impossible. What do you mean there's no heron? There's a heron. No place for it to go. There was a whole field of canola. The heron had gone, I'm out of here. And the heron, I didn't know where it had gone. I didn't know whether, I hadn't heard it take off. It hadn't run anywhere. So I went and I looked till Dad finally got back without the vet. I still hadn't found the heron. Then I found it with its wings all spread out and trapped in the canola, and it couldn't move. And thank God I didn't leave. So I went, okay, very good. But you did the, underneath everything till it got. So I reached down and I got the wings and I slowly folded them in like this. And then I put my head up like this because I knew that heron had a big long beak and was going to bite me right in the face. So I did this, and sure enough, that head came up and went right past my face, past my chin, and I got it by the neck and held it loosely, but so that it couldn't bite hack my face anymore. Held it under here and carried it to the car, and we got in, and it seemed so weird to be listening to Winnipeg radio and sitting there with a full-grown heron on my lap, and it got it by the neck, and it's looking at me like, who the heck are you? And I held it so it was loose. We drove to town, drove to the vet's place, which was on the lake, and I got out, and I'm carrying it, and he said, oh yeah, he said, that's a young heron, but he says, full-grown. What he's done is, they will do this, he said he's flown with adult herons as far as he could with them and got exhausted and then had to land. And he said, sometimes they'll have to stay down for 2 weeks to regain their strength to fly again. And that's when the predators get them. So you have saved this heron. And he said, there's nothing that needs to be done for it. We can just set it down by the lake here and let it heal. And so I set the heron down, and it went, okay, who's killing me? When's it happen? Like, I'm ready. And I just said, no, it's okay. You can go to the lake. So it goes, huh? And then you can see him kind of going, maybe they won't notice if I wander over to the lake. And it wandered over to the lake, and then it just stood there and looked at us like, cool, and then it just stayed around the lake for about a week or so, or a little longer. It just went around the shore and did its thing. And then it eventually just flew off and joined the other adult herons, and away it went.
Well, I learned something about herons today. I did not know that.
Yeah, it was the most rewarding thing to do that.
And is that where your life of rescue was born?
No, I've been rescuing animals since I was a little kid. But a sad thing that showed me the difference between the selective empathy thing. Out at Headingley, there was a goose, full-grown goose, in the middle of the two lanes, flapping around in a circle. It had been hit a wire, done whatever, and nobody would stop for it. So I stopped in the middle of the road, and I got out, and I did the same thing, and I picked up the goose. It had a broken wing, and I got it in the car, and I set it on the floor. And you know, that goose, he was so relieved that I knew that I could only take him to the rehab outside the city. He put his head in my hand.
Isn't that incredible?
And left it there all the way out there. They weren't able to save him because his wing was too badly broken, but he didn't suffer. He didn't suffer on the highway and get hit again, but everybody was driving around him and wouldn't stop to save him.
Thank you for helping him.
Well, I just was so frustrated that people wouldn't care enough to do that. And I've done that with pigeons at the Higgins underpass here in Winnipeg, pigeons on the road. And people are driving around them.
Well, you know, I can tell you that my experience in the rescue world is that compassion exists, it's passive. Rescue is active. Rescue is a combination of compassion and courage. So
yeah.
Good for you.
Well, it's just, it doesn't feel like courage. It just feels like there's only one choice.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't feel like I have the option here of just ignoring it. No. You, if you're able to do something about it, you have to do something about it. So,
you know, I'll share with you an observation. In my varied career, at one point I had the privilege of working with former Foreign Minister Lloyd Axworthy, and Lloyd is a visionary, and he taught me so much. And he used to talk about one of the things that he did in his career was bring about the responsibility to protect doctrine. And the basis of the doctrine adopted at the United Nations is that there is an obligation to intervene to protect people from torment and fear at the hands of their governments or militias. And I always would bring up that shouldn't that obligation to protect extend to all beings who have the capacity to feel torment and fear? Why is that obligation to protect not determined by species, but instead by capacity to feel fear and torment? And I still stand by that. So further to your point, the courage is an impetus, or the compassion is an impetus to act. But I do, like you, think there's also an obligation to protect those that can't protect themselves.
My friend, I think you saw this on my Facebook thing, but my friend Regan Russell, who was a model here in Winnipeg, and she just advocated for, in Ontario where she lived, for the pigs. And she would go to the slaughterhouse, and when the trucks came in, she would be there with signs, and she'd be there with the other people and feeding them water. And the courage of that woman. There'd been a conversation between people in power that those people that were there were kind of being a nuisance and kind of getting a little bit too much freedom to advocate. So they let the truck drivers come in a little faster and just be a little less sensitive to that. So, because they're trying to make those people go, oh, it's not as comfortable to be here. So they tried to sort of, give them a hint, you're not welcome here. And unfortunately, Regan was used to the system the way it was. And she ended up in front of a truck and got hit by the truck and killed by the truck.
Tragic.
So she gave, and that was just a few years ago. I'd had lunch just before that with her in Winnipeg, and we'd spent an hour or more talking like this. And she was killed, and that was, she gave her life for this passion, this cause, for that care. And it just was torture. But I have trouble. I don't have the courage she has about those pigs that arrive in those trucks. If I'm driving down the highway and I see a truck full of pigs and I know they're headed to the slaughterhouse, I can't look at that truck. I apologize to them without looking at them. I pray for them. I pull back so I don't have to drive beside them, because I know that truck is filled not with pigs, it's filled with individuals.
Beings who'd rather choose to live or
Yes.
afraid. You know what? I'll tell you. Tell you what my brother tells me, because he and I talk like this. My brother is a vegan. I'm very proud of him, and I say the same thing. I feel an obligation to bear witness, because if they can bear it with their bodies, I should be able to bear it with my eyes. But like you, I can't, because it haunts me. It'll stay with me. And my brother very compassionately tells me, he goes, to be fair, Chris, you're not the one that needs to see this, because you're not the one who's supporting it with your dollars. You're not the one who needs convincing. And I would say the same to you. By all means, bear witness. Do what you can.
I agree with that. I got to that point in my logic that it's not helpful to. I don't need that extra push.
You're already there.
I'm already there, and I'm fighting for it the best I can.
That's right.
And you have on your, well, what Kelly sent me was this thing about you being the new CEO. And then I looked in the Humane Society Facebook or website, and there's the thing in there about cows and all that stuff, and the tortures, and you can hear the pigs squealing. I couldn't go there either, because I know that's happening.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm fighting for. And it's such a horror story.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's a difficult thing to contemplate. The world doesn't change overnight, but we can do what we can to help animals. And there's so many ways to do that. There is the courage and the advocacy and the awareness raising of somebody like a Reagan Russell. There is also legal means, advocating for better law protections, legal protections for animal welfare. And that's one of the things that I'm really proud of the Humane Society. The Humane Society is forward-thinking enough to have an advocacy department that works directly with elected officials and governments and industry partners to make sure that animal welfare standards are enshrined and enforceable, and that there's voices at the table where they matter. So there's reason to hope.
Yeah. I have a question about advocacy. We just got a sign from Kelly, who's hiding in the wings. And we have 4 minutes. So
4 minutes. Let's make them good.
Okay, just quickly, each fall there's a crow hunt at various communities. Are you familiar with it?
I'm very familiar.
Okay, so they go out and they hunt those crows, and it's almost like a fun day, and it drives me completely mad. And then they come back at the end of the day and they stack up and see who got the most number of crows. Crows are brilliant birds, and they are the
form
same.
complex social and family bonds.
Yes, can you repeat that, please? They have...
Crows form complex social and family bonds. There's research that supports that they're as bright as your average 3-year-old child.
Yes, and they are not. We don't have the right to go and do that. We have the right to investigate and find a different way to manage our environment with their cooperation and help. There's got to be a way, but we don't go out and shoot them for fun and then stack them up and then have a big barbecue. Here's another one I want to drop in quickly. When you have a fundraiser for animals, not you, I don't mean you, I mean various organizations that want to support, animals and raise some money, don't serve meat at it. That drives me crazy. To raise money to save animals for a rescue, and then all these animals have to die to feed the people that are coming to make a donation. That's my opinion.
I'm going to give you one more plug. One of the things that makes me very proud of the Humane Society is the ethical consistency of those approaches. So the Humane Society is an organization that advocates for the welfare of all animals, which means we don't support harm. So our food policy is that we will not purchase animal-sourced foods. Doesn't mean we tell staff what they have to do, or
right.
I mean, people are free to make their own choices. But when we are spending donor dollars donated to us for animal welfare and animal rescue, it'll never be spent on the harm of other animals.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Christina von Schindler, new CEO of the Winnipeg Humane Society. Is there anything you want to leave us with that's something, even if you've covered it, or?
Please follow us on our socials. Look at our adoptables, if you can't adopt yourself, share it with your networks. Maybe one of your networks is looking for a new best friend. Support your local.
What's your website?
WinnipegHumaneSociety.ca. We have Insta, we have TikTok, we have YouTube, we have Facebook. Spread the word. Support your local shelters. Adopt, don't shop. Foster, volunteer. We all have the power to change a life.
We do.
So please use that power.
And selective empathy, time to lay that to rest and let that empathy go to all non-humans and humans.
Please be curious. Engage your compassion. Ask questions.
And thanks to Kelly Hughes, a wonderful guy. Thanks for letting me sit in and co-host. And I really appreciate it. And this has been wonderful.
Thank you for the invitation. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Take care.